The following episode of the Because Maybe podcast is rated explicit. Please be advised that the content matter is aimed at mature audiences. If your age determines that you must attend mandatory education daily, or if you find coarse language offensive, you are strongly advised to not listen to this podcast. By continuing to listen, you are choosing to ignore this warning. You release the Because Maybe podcast team of any and all responsibility. Listener discretion is advised.
What's up, everybody? This week we look at the underrated movie The People vs. Larry Flynt, and our sarcastic teenager has a thing or two to say about research. That and a whole lot more is to come, because maybe the pervert is back. The pervert is back. Welcome to the show. You know, that's maybe not the best way to start the show, but you know what? I love that line, so, you know, it's my show. I can do what I want. Hi, guys. Hope everybody's doing okay on this wonderful, wonderful Sunday, wherever you are. It's like 8,000 degrees down here in Louisiana, and yeah, I can't handle it. I took a picture and I posted it on Facebook yesterday, and I look like, you know, Brent Spiner on Independence Day. I just got the hair everywhere, the beard everywhere. It's not doing good. But one of the reasons, before we get started, I want to explain why I put this as an explicit episode rather than just a standard episode. I figured the life of a smut peddler, one of the industry's porno kings, is not really appropriate for everybody. So, you know, I want people to know what they're getting into before we get it started. So if you guys don't think it's appropriate to listen to, by all means, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Thanks very much for listening. Or you can just fast forward past the main segment and listen to what we've got going on at the end. So, before we get into everything, though, I wanted to say one or two things about the World Cup. For those of you who know, I'm a big football fan, big soccer fan, depending on where in the world you are. And this year, the tournament is in Russia. First time in Europe in many, many years. This is actually the first in 4 World Cups that's been in Europe. It went to Italy, South Africa. Was it Italy? I can't remember. Germany. So it went to Germany, South Africa, Brazil. Now we're in Russia. The next time it'll be in Qatar, and then after that we'll probably be in the United States. So I might actually go to a World Cup game. Whoever knows. But whenever these tournaments come along, it starts on the 14th, so that will be next Saturday or next Sunday. I'm not sure. It starts on the 14th and runs through to July 15th. And this year, like every year, like in every tournament that Wales are not a part of, I will be supporting the Germans. I don't know why. I just remember back when I was younger, back in Euro 96, I think it was, there was a player called Stefan Nutz, and his name was spelled Kuntz. And I thought that was hilarious, and he wasn't the greatest player of all, and, you know, he broke the English heart. Now, look, I'm not down with the pettiness of the modern-day Welsh-English sport rivalry. I just have many, many better things to do. But, you know, seeing Gareth Southgate missed that penalty, and, you know, it made me laugh. But not just that. I mean, I had family members who supported Germany, and I don't know why. The Germans seem, in a sports arena anyway, they're always some of my favorite players. I love Lucas Podolski, Per Mertesacker, Mesut Ozil. That's in obviously in modern times. Then you've got like Oliver Bierhoff, Jens Lehmann, Oliver Kahn. You know, I love the Germans. Germany is one of the most underrated countries in the world because everybody talks about Brazil and South America and Argentina and Spain and France and Italy, and Germany are up there. You know, they've won 4 World Cups, soon to be 5 in my opinion, and you know, that's who I'm going for. Now, I'd support Germany if Wales are not there. If Wales were there, of course I'll be supporting Wales, and, you know, should Wales get knocked out, they move on to Germany. But I think that the next World Cup Wales will qualify for. Just something tells me that, you know, we haven't seen the last of this generation of Welsh players. The fact that they've done really, really well over the last 6 years, especially after the tragic death of Gary Speed, you know, I think we will go a long way. We're going to Qatar. And what about my adopted homeland? Well, they've done the right thing, and they've moved away from Klinsmann, obviously, and a German player I don't like. I just don't have time for divers, I'm sorry. Divers and ex-Spurs players, so there you go. USA's got to change some of their mentality. they've got to start attracting people to Major League Soccer in their prime rather than just as a retirement home. They bring a couple of top European guys in their prime. It'll bring more attention to the league, which will bring the standard up, in my opinion. But as soon as that happens, and I've also said this too, as soon as Major League Soccer does away with the salary cap, if you were given the chance to play in Bolton or in New York, where are you going to live and play? No disrespect to Bolton, much anyway, but no disrespect to Bolton, but I mean, Old York versus New York. Do you want to play in Birmingham or Los Angeles? Florida or Fulham? It's just, or maybe London you might get away with, but you get what I'm saying. So that's my opinion on how US football will go in the future. As soon as the salary cap's gone, that's it. America will take over. Mark my words. Mark this date. It's not going to happen, but should it happen. But as I said a minute ago, I think Germany are definitely going to win. And keep your eye out on Panama. That's what I'm going to say. Keep your eye out on Panama. European folks don't know too much about them, but they'll do good. They'll do good. Talking of football, I wanted to get in touch with what happened last week. We mentioned Loris Karius. And there's been a bit of a... I don't want to say excuse, because it's not an excuse, but there's been a bit more of a development on what actually happened. And it turns out that Karius actually has a concussion that was sustained during the match. Now, if you have a concussion, it's basically a bruise on your brain. For what most people don't know. And it can disorient you. It can cause things like double vision. It can cause things like, coordination off, everything like that. So that could explain why he dropped the last goal. It could explain why he threw the ball and it hit the other player when it looked like it wasn't going to. If he had a serious head injury like that, it could explain. Now, if they detected it on the field, they should have pulled him off straight away. I've got no, a couple of years ago, I remember Laurent Koscielny, Wojciech Szczesny, and Diego Costa, I think, were involved in a three-way clash of heads, and I think it was Arsenal. I think it was against Chelsea. I'm not sure. But basically, what Szczesny, Koscielny definitely clashed heads, and a third guy from the opposition team did. And Wenger kept Koscielny and Szczesny on until Koscielny almost passed out on the pitch. So yeah, I think head injury in sport is a lot of things that we need to look at a little bit more in detail. So, but then again, I just spent 5 minutes talking about this. I might not watch the World Cup because the World Cup is supposed to be a showcase of the greatest players at the peak of their ability, showing to the world what they can do. And you can't have a World Cup without Nicholas Bentner. So poor Bentner, he's not going to be there. Another thing before we get started, it's kind of ironic that this week we're talking about the People versus Larry Flynt. Hugh Hefner was one of the biggest smut peddlers in the United States. Larry Flynt is one of the biggest smut peddlers in the United States. But in the UK, they lost their own smut peddler this week as 1980s throwback Peter Stringfellow. He passed away. The man was a lecherous pervert, but apparently he had like a good side, which is really, really weird. Also in celebrity deaths, Anthony Bourdain passed away this week from suicide. And it's yeah. I mean, I know there was a fashion designer who passed away through suicide too this week, and more and more people are deciding that they can't live anymore, and that's that's sad and that's horrifying. Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but I'm not going to. May everybody who's passed away recently, may they rest in peace and all that for what it's worth. And I know that I don't want to end this on a down note, so to speak. But all I can say is, guys, look for what's great in your life and focus on that, and that should do enough to keep that monster away, because it is a monster, and the only way you can slay it is to keep your wits about you, I guess. So, with all that in mind, social media, guys, if you're on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, or Google+, look up Because Maybe Pod. Look at the blog, becausemaybe.podcast.wordpress.com. Look up our YouTube channel. I finally was able to get that up to date this week. We've got sample episodes where we usually put our skit, a couple of comments from the main thing. It's just for people if you don't want to listen to it, and you just want to hear a sample. That's what it is. We also put extra episodes up there. I'm going to be having an extra episode before too much longer. I just got to figure out how to do it. Now, one more thing before. I know I've ranted and raved. I know I've spoken here for a good 10 minutes, and I don't usually speak this long. But the upcoming segment is going to be me with Sarah. I just want to warn you that the sound quality is not going to be the best. My microphone has been acting up this week. I finally managed to figure out what the problem was. It was a bad cable, which sucks because these things are expensive. But I was not able to edit all the and stuff out of it. Sorry about that. I was not able to edit any of the junk out of there, on all of the junk out of there, I should say. And I didn't want to go through the hassle of recording again because I thought we really got a good episode together. So guys, please ignore parts of the sound quality. My voice is going to cut in and out. But Sarah, one of the reasons I brought Sarah on board is because she has great insights, and this episode was no different. She did a really good job. And like I said, if you are not into listening to a smut peddler's life, either fast forward or, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. So guys, The People vs. Larry Flynt, here we are.
Review Corner, the big screen.
Hey guys, we are back, and I say we because I am joined once again by the absolute fantastic wind beneath my wings, the sole reason that I wear pants in the morning because I remember them. Sarah, how you doing?
What up? I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. Welcome to Season 3, or Season 2.5, depending on how you look at it. And also, we're joined by a third guest, Old Man Pepper.
Yes, Pepper the cat
So
is...
if you hear any,
Meow. Yeah.
if you hear anything, it's just the cat. Ignore us. He doesn't like what we do. He doesn't like talking. Yet he's sitting on our bed. Anyway, guys, so, this week, we are going to be looking at one of the most underrated movies of the 90s.
Yes.
And it's a doozy. It's a biopic even, of... Let me start that again. Actually, I'm going to keep that in.
Yes.
It's basically a biography, and it is The People versus Larry Flynt.
Yes.
Strangely enough, a favorite movie of certain relatives.
Yes, it was one of Momo's, my grandmother's favorite movies. My grandmother who just passed in March. This was one of her favorites, which amused me to no end. So,
it's a dang good movie, and yeah, that does seem weird. I mean, one of my grandfather's one of his favorite movies was Blade in Saddles. So.
Yes,
but that gave him a heart attack. That's why he liked it.
Let it not be said that octogenarians have lost their sense of humor. Don't have a sense of humor, rather.
No, they do. They just don't like our sense of humor. Which is okay. When we become octogenarians, we won't like the sense of humor that's going on now.
Darn kids on the lawn.
That's right. Us goats in our case.
Yes.
So let's get some of the boring stuff out the way.
Yes.
Before we go deep into it. This movie is, like I said, it's a biopic. It's a biopic of Larry Flynt. It's directed by Milos Forman.
Yes.
And produced by Oliver Stone.
Yes.
Which I'm slightly shocked at because there's not enough conspiracy in this movie. Also produced by Janet Yang and Michael Hausman. Written by Scott Alexander and Larry Karenswicki. My apologies if I got that wrong. Can you say it better?
Karazinski?
Karazinski. Alright, beautiful. It was produced by Phoenix Pictures, distributed by Columbia, and was released Christmas Day, 1996.
Yes.
Merry Christmas. Here's a stripper movie.
Well, it's more than just a stripper movie.
I know. We will get into that here in just a moment. Did moderately well at the box office, $20.3 million, but it was a loss commercially.
Yes.
But it kind of is like a lot of movies that are a loss commercially. It kind of like found its audience on DVD.
Yeah, I mean, they made it up in domestics later.
Yeah,
I mean, it didn't. The box office, yeah. But I mean, it's pretty much like all Kevin Smith movies. It made its money on,
and on its audience.
Right.
Well, the critics, however, liked it. I mean, according to the John Omita Film reviewer, that is taking the IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes critic, and Rotten Tomatoes users,
right,
and aggregating the numbers, it's an 80% film, so it's an 8 out of 10 movie according to people around the world. Fair assessment? Okay. And we're going to come to why I've got Sarah with me here, although not because it's one of her favorite movies, it's because of people who are in it, but also she knows how to, how to put this movie into words better than I can. So
Oh, do I?
maybe.
Okay.
So for those of you wondering, what is this movie about? Well, it's about Larry Flynt.
Yes.
Basically,
You owe your freedom of speech currently to Larry Flynt.
I know that's weird to me. You know,
To a smut peddler.
to a smut peddler.
A proud smut peddler.
Oh yeah,
He may even have a strip club in your neighborhood.
He's got one in ours.
Yes, he does.
Ugh. Anakin has the power. That's another story for another day. Please don't sue us. So what is this movie about? Well, strip club owner Larry Flynt and his brother Jimmy, former moonshiners.
Yes.
They start a go-go club, and the brothers, along with Larry's wife Althea, eventually create a pornographic magazine that ignores society's morals and taboos. Hustler brings the Flynts not only millions in profit, but also the wrath of decent people. Flynt and his overburdened attorney find themselves in courtrooms all over the nation defending Larry against criminal and civil charges. Flynt is beset by paralysis, the result of an assassination attempt, drug addiction, mental illness, and Althea's failing health.
Yes.
That's kind of the movie in a nutshell, but it's not completely, but it's, you know, it doesn't spoil anything. And
Right.
And besides, if you've lived in the United States of America over the last 30 years, you know who Larry Flynt is. You
Correct.
know what he does, and you know
Correct.
pretty much his life story.
Right.
I want to get to the cast real quick, because this cast
is
was-
amazing.
was perfect.
Yes.
Very rarely in a biopic do you get the right people cast. Look, The People versus O.J. Simpson, that was on Netflix a while back. I like Cuba Gooding Jr. I think he's a fantastic actor, but he did not convince me as O.J. Simpson.
Right.
He was just too short in stature, and he's been in enough roles in his lifetime where, you know, like Daddy Daycare, or Daddy Day Camp, excuse me. You know,
Right.
where he played the comic relief in a lead role, and it just kind of didn't click. But Woody Harrelson as Larry Flynt, that is an astute piece of casting right there.
Right. Well, I mean, you've got Harrelson as Larry Flynt. You've got, you know, our the patron saint of the podcast, Courtney Love, because she
Dang
keeps coming up as Althea.
Yep.
You've got Edward Norton as their lawyer.
Yep.
But okay, here's the thing, and there are other supporting cast members, but I mean, such as Charles Keating and whatnot. But here, I mean, sorry, that was
James Cromwell, you mean?
James Cromwell playing Charles Keating. Sorry.
And Larry's brother played by Woody's brother.
Yes, but here's the thing, guys. You actually have Woody Harrelson, Edward Norton, and Crispin Glover all in the same movie.
Yeah.
Like, that just makes my little, you know, movie nerd heart sing right there.
Oh, it's singing loud and proud, too.
Yes.
But I'm in a personal agreement that every single person cast in this role was perfect.
Yes.
Very rarely you get that in a movie. In fact, in a couple of movies we reviewed, that's been the case, but this one more than ever. Woody Harrelson just nailed it.
Yeah, he did.
He like, Woody Harrelson plays the sleazy, selfish person very, very well.
Yes, he does.
Kingpin.
Yes.
Hunger Games.
Yes. I'm sorry, I can't do Kingpin. Like, I recognize it for the awesomeness that it is, but I cannot sit through it without just,
Courtney Love. On the one hand, it's fair to say that Courtney Love may have found this role kind of easy. You know, playing
a stripper, yeah.
playing an abused stripper, abused underage stripper, with drug problems. But at the same time, and we'll get to this in a minute, but I wasn't watching Woody Harrelson, Courtney Love, and Edward Norton.
No,
you were
you're
watching
not.
Larry Flynt, Althea. I can't pronounce the name. My apologies.
Althea.
Althea Flynt and Alan Isaacman. That's what I saw on the screen. You know,
Yes.
it was, you know, definitely. It's what made the movie.
Yes.
You know, it's. A lot of films nowadays, you see like Will Smith on TV on the screen, and he's being Will Smith.
Right.
He's not. You know, gone are the days where he was the nerdy kid in Made in America.
Right.
You know, now every time he walks in, he's the Fresh Prince.
Correct.
You know.
That is what it is, yes.
So this movie is not just a simple biopic, which is one of the reasons why we're covering it. It does have a lot of...
Here's the thing. Woody Harrelson takes to Flint, right? Like Gary Sinise did to Lieutenant Dan.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you have someone in the beginning of the movie who is able-bodied, and and plays it full of vigor and whatnot.
Yep.
And then they are, because of an event that happened, see the movie or crack open your Wikipedia, whichever. Well, then again, it's 1996. I mean, really, it's past the term for spoilers, right?
It's a 22-year-old movie.
Okay, yeah. So, but after Larry is shot, I mean, he's
paralyzed.
He's paralyzed, and Harrelson plays it perfectly. Oh my God, does he play it perfectly? And with with a panache that you haven't seen. I love the word. That's a fun word, panache. That you haven't seen at that time hadn't seen since Sinise and Gump.
No.
So.
No, definitely.
Yeah, it's.
He played it a lot better than the dude from Bones did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or the dude in Glee.
Oh, the dude in Glee, yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, not only that though. It's he channeled that anger and that rage and that pity all together. Really, really just, And actually, we're gonna come to that in a minute. But one of the main themes of this movie is Larry's battle with the establishment.
Yes.
Now, we said at the beginning of this piece, Larry Flynt is your First Amendment hero. Like, one of the reasons that I wanted to do this is I wanted to talk mainly about this kind of stuff. But out of everyone in the world,
that you would think that who is your constitutional hero?
Yeah, it's
not many people would think to go, Larry Flynt is my constitutional hero. Burn.
And it's nothing against his political views or anything like that. But I mean, the majority. Let's be honest. The majority of people in the adult entertainment industry, pornographers, strip club owners, pimps, even legal pimps, we should say. But I mean, they're all selfish, self-centered, looking out for number one. And Larry Flynt is that. And there's a part of me that also believes that one of the reasons he's not fighting for our free speech, so to speak. He's fighting for his, but his actions have led to everybody else getting theirs.
Well, yeah, but a part of it, and it's a part that was definitely talked about in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, while it started with him defending his right, I mean, it definitely escalated into just, because, dear God, that man was stubborn.
Oh, yeah.
And thank God he was. But, I mean...
He is. Let's clarify. As of recording, Larry is still alive.
Yes. But, I mean, as the depiction shows, he's stubborn, stubborn as stubborn can be.
Oh, yeah.
But it's that, here's the thing. Here's a little tidbit for you. If you have ever read or enjoyed fan fiction, you can thank Larry Flynt.
Yes.
If you have ever partaken or enjoyed a parody of some sort, like on YouTube, Weird Al can Mad Magazine.
Yep.
They owe Larry Flynt their thanks.
Yep. Because
the whole ability to parody something or to take something and sort of make it your own is given to us legally by the Flynt case.
Yep. Now, which Flynt case are we talking? The one against Jerry Falwell?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Because we'll get into that here.
Yes.
In a few, but I mean that is really, really important. And again, it's quite revealing, I guess. To see. I mean, I don't want to get political or anything like that, but it's quite revealing to see who is fighting for constitutional rights, especially in this movie, and who's trying to deny constitutional rights. Now, is there bias involved in it? Probably there is.
Yes.
As in a lot of things. I mean, remember, this movie was produced by Oliver Stone. I mean, there's a man who never saw a conspiracy he didn't like. He's probably the one who vandalized the Golden McKernan billboard. But I mean, how many times in this movie? I mean, not just in this movie, in reality, was Larry thrown in prison?
Quite a few.
Mental institution. I mean, his first arrest and charge, he was sentenced to 25 years in prison for organized crime.
Yes.
Which he wasn't a mobster. He was just a smut peddler. Ironically, the judge who sentenced him in that scene was played by
Larry Flynt.
Larry Flynt himself. Yeah.
Yes.
But it does point out, hypocrisy. I mean, how many times in that movie does he do something that he knows Hugh Hefner got away with?
Yes.
One scene, he takes over somebody's store, and he sells a copy of Playboy, a copy of Penthouse, and everything's fine. And as soon as he sells a copy of Hustler, he's arrested. But obscenity. So I guess the social media question for this week is, which one was the more vulgar, the Penthouse or Hustler? No, that's not. That's not going to be it. But remember, also, guys, we are this episode is rated mature for young ears listening. If you don't know what Hustler is, and if you don't know what Penthouse is, just go ask your older brother.
Turn it off. Turn off the podcast
Turn
right
off
now.
the podcast and go ask your older brother for a copy of his.
John Roberts.
Oh, please. But also that it points out double standards in what was the evangelical movement, and even high places in government, who were promoting free speech, but they're getting offended at its application.
Right.
Because Larry does strike up a friendship with Jimmy Carter's sister.
Yes.
Now, I'm not sure if Carter was president at the time in that time period.
It was in real life, Carter did an interview with Playboy, I think. And or it could have been his. I've got to look it up, actually, and I should have. But Carter admitted to being human and having lust in his heart. And there was a lot of blowback from that. No pun intended. It was a lot.
Somebody say blowback.
Stop. So, yeah, you're about 20 years too soon for that one, babe. But so anyway, that whole thing led to the relationship, the friendship between Larry and President Carter's sister.
Miss Ruth Carter.
Yes.
Ruth Carter Stapleton.
Yes.
She was an evangelical who run her own mission statement. In fact, converted Larry to Christianity for a while at that point. And we'll get to that here in a little bit, because it's a bigger statement than just, well, he converted to Christianity, what happened next?
Dun dun dun.
Dun, 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 right? But another big theme in this movie is health and drugs. Mm-hmm. I'm piling these together because in this movie's case, one led to the other. I mean, Larry Flynt was not a drug taker, if I remember rightly.
Right? No,
not recreationally.
Right.
But in the middle of the movie, he's shot, and he's shot in the spine, and the pain is so great that it leads to an addiction to painkillers and other drugs.
Yes.
And he spends basically about 5 years in agony and seclusion, and that's where his dependency comes from. And I can understand something like that. I mean, look, I'm not going to crap on drug user or anything like that, but I mean, if you are using medicine for legitimate means and get addicted to it, that's not your fault. That's an illness.
Right.
Definitely. Well, addiction's an illness anyway, but that's another story for another
day.
Right. Althea has problems with her own addiction, and basically the pair of them spend about 5 years in a basic codependent addiction.
Yes.
And how Larry breaks from that is he has like 6 or 7 surgeries on his back to kill the nerves that are basically on fire.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be hell. You can't move your body, right?
Yeah.
But like from the middle of your spine down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Middle of your rib cage down. Excuse me. You can't move your body, but you can feel it hurting.
Oh yeah.
That's got to be hell.
Definitely. And how he. Well, we know how he dealt with that. He painkillers and stuff like that. But I mean, from my point of view, look, I've traveled 5 hours, my back's beating pain, and I've wanted,
right,
just having that for years and years and years and years. The sad part about it is that when Larry has his surgeries, he quits drugs basically because he doesn't need them anymore.
Right.
And
which the movie is very real in that.
Yeah.
Like, it gets raw. I mean, it doesn't sugarcoat anything.
No, it doesn't. But the problem was Althea doesn't get clean and decides to carry on, and because of her drug addiction,
because now we go into the 80s.
we're now into the 80s, basically descends into HIV and then eventually,
AIDS.
into AIDS. And this was the 80s. I mean, good Lord. Can you imagine? I can't imagine how she was in reality treated. In the movie, she was treated pretty shittily. But in reality,
Yeah.
I just can't think of it. Larry suffers from severe depression due to being locked in a mental institution for 18 months. This was another one of Larry's, outbursts in court. I think that was the time he wore the U.S. flag as a diaper. And then the judge just sentenced him to 18 months in a nut house.
Yes.
But after beating his drug addiction, Larry returns to work with the famous line, "The pervert is back."
Yes.
One of my favorite lines in the movie. But Althea unfortunately dies of her condition. And I don't know if that's how it happened, but her death scene in this movie is, like, really raw.
It is. And, again, I've got to give props to my girl.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing. This movie was released in 96. Right? It was released of Christmas of 96. And movies of this scope, it took a while to work on. Okay?
Yeah.
So you can, it's a safe bet to say, just, that if they weren't filming, they were at least reading around April of 96.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, give or take.
Okay. I mean, but there was some either pre or either pre-production or production.
Right.
Right? Going on. Okay. Here's the thing. To just, imagine spending the second anniversary of your husband's death by a gunshot.
Yeah.
Right? Getting ready to film a movie where there are some similarities to yourself.
Yeah.
Where your husband, is wounded
By a gunshot.
by a gunshot.
Yeah.
And then the scene where he's where they've got him at the hospital and Althea is wigging out and she's telling them to save him and she doesn't care if they have to keep his head in an effing jar. That just chills, dude. I mean, that could not have been an easy
not
thing
at
to
all.
film. The entire thing couldn't be easy to film.
Well, that's one of the things too. I mean, she, as I touched on the blog, which if you haven't read yet, please go do. Yeah, on the one hand, she didn't have to quote unquote act a lot of that stuff, but this had to be cathartic for her.
Yeah.
I mean, she's channeling her emotions through somebody else who went through a similar experience.
Right.
And that person was a real person too, so it wasn't just like, a made up character just for the sake of entertainment.
Right.
And yeah, she does, I mean, I've said before, she does sterling work on this movie. I mean, one of the best performances by a non-actor I've ever seen in a movie.
Well, she had some acting before.
She did have some acting experience, but not on this scale.
This is true.
I mean, the guy from Almost Famous, he had some guitar skill, but not on the level that he did, and spent 6 weeks with everybody's favorite, guitar player's guitarist, Mr. Peter Frampton.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
that
own,
Nancy Wilson.
I don't own Frampton Comes Alive. I'm like, there's like 6 of us in the world.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, you do by proxy, because I've got like 6 copies of it on vinyl. So by proxy.
By proxy. All right.
I mean, by law you own half, so you have 3 copies, dear.
Oh, right. Yay!
Yay!
So we now let's go back to our secondary subject, the People versus Larry Flynt.
Yes. Sorry about that.
No, it's my fault. I keep going off on these tangents. A lot of the scenes take place in the courtroom, and it shows the bond between Larry Flynt and Alan Isaacman.
Yes.
Now we'll get to a little bit more on that here in a few minutes. He's charged a lot with indecency, and as I mentioned, his court romantics are over the top. He, once used the U.S. flag as a diaper and took a crap in the courtroom, and started throwing oranges at the judges. In a way, you know, the final scene where he's in the Supreme Court with the Falwell case, that almost didn't happen because of Larry's antics in courtrooms past.
Right.
And his attorney, Alan Isaacman, said, look, you know, they will not speak to you because you will be in, you know,
right,
disrespectful to the court and everything like that. But in credit, he shows up to the courtroom and he's completely and utterly placid. He's completely and utterly conform. You know, he's just sitting there quietly while his attorney does his thing.
Yes.
Which, you could put that down to grieving, I guess. But on the other hand, you know, it's...
Oh, dear God, the man was tired. I mean, this whole thing, this entire thing had snowballed for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what he lost in this. I mean, ultimately, you know, it started off him, you know, just having his business. You know, him running his business, running his magazine. I mean, he lost, you know, the use of most of his body.
Yeah.
Time, money, sanity, loved ones.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, at this point, he is just exhausted, and who wouldn't be?
No, that's a fair point.
I mean, you know,
that is an absolute fair point. I mean, yeah, he I mean, through the course of the movie, you see, you know, he does run the gambit of everything from anger, defiance, guilt.
It's like watching the stages of grief. I mean,
Yeah.
it really is.
The whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, another big theme, is the dichotomy between rich man and poor man.
Well, yeah, I mean, Flint's story is very much, you know, pulled himself by his bootstraps.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, they were moonshiners and hustlers. That's where the name came from. You know, Althea was sent to many different Catholic orphanages, and she was abused there. The Flint brothers came from a broken home, no money. Their dad was an alcoholic, as it's depicted in the movie. But like most poor people who become wealthy, as their wealth increases, so does their extravagance.
Well, yeah, because when you have nothing, you want everything.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you see that a lot now with, say, lottery winners. You know, the ones who win like 800 million, and then in 2 years they're broke. You know, and they feel like where they're from, like in Ohio, that they're outcasts, for lack of a better term, because of what they do and how they do it. So they basically move to California after Larry's incident, shall we say, you know, after his paralyzation. But before his paralyzation, he became a born-again Christian in about the year and a half leading up to his shooting.
Right.
And when I say he became a Christian, I don't just mean he started going to church and saying, Lord, you know, I apologize for selling these naked ladies, but I'm still going to sell them. And here's my tithe. He literally becomes a full-fledged born-again Christian, showing up to church on Sunday. You know, whatever you picture when you picture your stereotypical churchgoer. And they were sincere beliefs that he held with Ruth Carter Stapleton.
Right.
And you know, that kind of almost ruined his business, for lack of a better term. But at the same time, was that a bad thing or a good thing?
I mean, it was his personal choice.
It was his personal choice. Okay. I mean, you know, I've always found that, you know, I mean, especially living down here, you know,
right.
people put a lot of their faith into their businesses, and a lot of their businesses into their faith.
Well,
and
also you've got to realize though that, I mean, it's ironic that the person who fought so much for First Amendment rights also was judged for exercising his First Amendment right, just from the other end. So, I mean, Larry exerted his right for freedom of religion, and people went nuts. So, I mean, you know, Flint is pretty much all over that First Amendment, one way or the other. The heathens hated him when he had Jesus. And everyone who had Jesus hated him
when he was a heathen.
when he was a heathen. So, go figure.
That's true. And I mean, during the time, he does change the magazine. Gone
Right.
with the explicit nudity and gone with same-sex couples.
Yes.
And, but it's kind of bittersweet in a way. That after his shooting, he denounces religion entirely and becomes a full-fledged atheist. And, but during this time, I mean, Althea and Jimmy are trying to keep the magazine alive.
Right.
But it's just, the company's almost dead.
Yeah, but he came across it like the way that he did it, and they go into it in the movie. I mean, at that point, you either step away or...
He had a desk plate with the words Jesus H. Christ on it. I mean...
Well, yeah, but not even so much that, but the way that the magazine, like the issues that were being put out at the time were just bizarre.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, how do you put out evangelical porn? I mean, this is really the tightrope he was walking on. And it was just...
Like
yeah.
the 1970s version of the Quibbler.
Right?
What's
yes.
that? Miracles.
Yes.
I just want to do the Narcles thing. Now, but one of the things that came from that was, the pointing out of the morality and the hypocrisy that existed around him at the time. I mean, okay, he's just out of prison.
Right.
And he does the freedom of speech rally.
Yes.
And his whole point in the freedom of speech rally is you could get a prize for shooting someone as a photographer.
Yes.
But you could get arrested for shooting a naked human.
Yes.
And see, this is one of the things I've always had. Like, I've always said I'd rather, catch my son in the room with a magazine as opposed to him having a knife or something like that. You know what I mean? Because, in my opinion, I hate violence and,
Well, yeah, I mean, when it doesn't always...
I mean, but I
get what you're saying, though. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I mean, remember, this is the time just around the Vietnam thing and the
Right.
Contra thing.
Right.
And,
Pulitzers were being given away to...
war journalists.
Right, war journalists who were going over there and taking pictures of children in Vietnam being burned. However... Susan has her boobies out, and...
I'm getting arrested.
Right, and that's vulgar.
Yeah, and I've always bought into that. It's violence has always been wrong, but I've never had a problem with nudity, male or female. It's what we are. I mean, an arm is an arm, and a butt's a butt.
Right.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned. But they also show, like I mentioned earlier, the Playboy Penthouse were both sold in the movie, but Hustler is the only one that keeps getting shut down. Mm-hmm. The Penthouse thing surprises me because Penthouse is more vulgar than Hustler.
Not at the time.
Not at the time. It's kind of flip-flop now.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Hustler was... Okay, I mean... How do I say this without being vulgar?
Be vulgar.
Like-
I'll bleep it out.
Okay, so, like, Playboy was more voyeuristic. I mean, you would see stuff, but you wouldn't see everything. You know what I mean?
You read it for the articles.
Right. Well, I mean, and you could see things, but, And Penthouse, you could see stuff. And, yeah. But, I mean...
Hustler, you saw everything.
Okay, I'm just going to be vulgar. In Hustler, you could tell what size speculum a woman needed next time she went to the doctor. Ooh. I mean, it was...
Damn.
Well, back in the day, yes.
Well, back in the day.
Yeah. So,
and not that that's wrong.
No, but there's just... I mean, for someone not to be used to that, for men who were used to,
This, I guess, was the equivalent going from showing a little bit of ankle to showing, a full-on leg.
Yeah.
Using Victorian analogies.
Mm-hmm. It's more like going from an ankle to we're showing bikinis.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a better example.
Yes.
Although there were no bikinis in Hustler.
No.
One of the morality questions is this: the more moral a character is, the more of a hypocrite and okay. Let me rephrase that again. Let me rephrase that. Excuse me. The more moral a character thinks they are, the less of an open mind that they have, and the more hypocritical they are. I mean, I don't want to get into a debate about Jerry Falwell, but the way he was portrayed in this movie.
Oh yeah, but you do know that towards the end, they became friends.
Oh yeah, they were firm friends when. In fact, Larry Flynt donated something to his church or something like that when he died. But during the movie, I mean,
Right.
he was portrayed as a small-minded,
Right.
closed-minded, and that might be wrong. That might not be the person who he was. But I mean, the more morals people had in this film, the less open-minded they were, and the less they were willing to,
Right.
Now, that's probably, again, done by design because Oliver Stone doesn't like a conspiracy.
Right.
He hasn't seen a conspiracy he doesn't like. But the bit that made me uncomfortable the most during this was when Althea shows up, announces that she has AIDS, and nobody's dealing with it. Nobody will say hi, bye, kiss my ass, nothing.
Well, yeah, I mean, but a lot of that has to do with AIDS at the time, too.
True, but that's not the bit that sickened me. The bit that sickened me was when Larry came back in and said, this is my wife, you will treat her like a human.
Right.
Everybody treated her like a human again. And it needed somebody...
Boss man had to say it before it got done.
Yeah, and that just, that made me cringe inside, because not just because it's a man telling you have to obey my woman or anything like that, but it's human to human.
Right.
But, I mean, Althea was a cause of jealousy, which is another big part of this movie, was jealousy and envy. I mean, Larry did have a lot of jealous tendencies.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he and Althea would sleep with other women, but as soon as a guy looked at her, he'd, green-eyed monster. And, in fact, I think he slapped her once to the point where she almost choked him.
Yeah, Althea didn't take crap off
No,
anybody.
she didn't. She said she'd rather eat dog food than go through that again. And also his kind of jealousy and rivalry with Hugh Hefner is, and I knew they might have been rivals, but I didn't know how petty it was until, for example, I bought a house with 24 rooms because that's how many rooms Hugh Hefner has in his house.
Yes.
Now they also, believe it or not, they made up, I mean, I'm not saying you couldn't have one without the other, but they both were pioneers in the same field.
Is Flint the last smut peddler? Last of the OG peddlers?
I think he is.
He outlived half.
Yeah.
I think he outlived... Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Larry's it. He wins the he wins he wins the golden pie. I mean,
Ew. You're nasty. Okay.
okay. So let's get off themes of the movie. Let's look at some of the stuff behind the scenes of the movie. Let's talk about some Larry Flynt trivia.
Okay.
I did this in the Groundhog Day episode. I'm going to ask you flat out: would Bill Murray or Tom Hanks have been a good Larry Flynt?
Murray, maybe. Hanks, no.
No, I don't think Tom Hanks either. Tom Hanks couldn't play that level of depravity.
Well, I don't know, man. Tom Hanks,
probably
yeah,
could.
maybe, yeah.
I don't think...
But still, I mean, no. Hanks can do depravity, but Hanks, I mean,
He's Tom Hanks.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's America's grandpa, but he's just, I can't see, I wouldn't be comfortable. Then again, I mean, it's like that movie where Robin Williams played the serial killer. I mean,
The photography movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like having someone do something that's seedy, that's so out of character. It's just, yeah.
True.
I mean,
but
it would have been viscerally, I would have been shooketh.
He could have done it if it was a horror movie, but not necessarily a drama.
I don't know, man. I mean, but Harrelson was the best choice.
I don't think Bill Murray could have done it, if I'm honest. Mm-hmm. I mean, Bill Murray's a great actor, and he would have pulled it off.
Yes.
But Bill Murray's way of working would have,
Oh God, it would have been hell for
it
everybody.
would have been hell for everyone. Well, not just that. He likes to improvise a lot.
Yeah.
So I'll stick to my lines, but you improvise, and it's just
It doesn't work that
it
way.
doesn't work that way.
No.
And as I mentioned, Brett Harrelson plays Jimmy Flint. The Woody's brother plays
Right.
Larry's brother. Larry Flynt was asked who he'd rather play himself if it wasn't Woody Harrelson. He said Michael Douglas. I don't think he could have pulled it off either. He's too polished. Woody Harrelson was just rough enough around the
Right.
great actor, but just rough enough around the edges. And the lines that they wrote for Larry's Freedom Speech Party were copied from Lenny Bruce, another First Amendment freedom of speech person.
Yes.
So that's a lot of a long way to go about it, bringing Lenny Bruce into this.
Right.
We go to Althea Flynt, or Courtney Love.
I'll handle this one.
You can handle this one. Okay.
All right. So, due to Courtney's drug addiction at the time, she was given the role on the condition that she stayed clean during the shoot. She agreed, and credits, Milos Forman helping her stay clean. This was also during the period of time where she began her Donatella Versace phase. So, awesome.
Yeah.
She was arrested several times during filming due to remaining in costume.
Now, if you haven't seen the movie, some of those costumes. Yeah, that's indecency right there.
When shooting in the jail, Love was placed in handcuffs as an overzealous cop thought that she was a prisoner due to her attire. She looked a little bit like a lady of the night.
She was a solicitor.
Yes. Ashley Judd was Flint's first choice to play Althea.
Would that have worked? No. Maybe? Because I remember you telling me Ashley Judd was kind of like the rebel of the family.
Yeah, no, Judd is a fabulous actress. It could have. I don't know if I don't know. I think if Courtney couldn't do it, that would be a very good second choice.
Okay.
And Patricia Arquette and Mira Sorvino were also considered for the role of Althea. Now, Arquette, yes. Definitely. Sorvino, maybe. See, the thing is that I'm not as familiar, unfortunately, with Sorvino's work as I probably should be. I know she did a lot of stuff, and then I know she had, once she went against Weinstein, that pretty much screwed her career over, but that's a whole other story for a different day. But,
no, I don't know the name, so forgive me. I apologize, and I can't be bothered to look it up because we're having internet issues. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Comcast. You seen Father of the Bride?
Yes.
Okay. The Bride?
Yes.
She was also considered... In fact, she was neck and neck with Courtney Love until she found out that she had to do nude scenes, and at that point, she dropped out.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes. I just can't remember her name. Apologies, like I said, I don't have my phone on me because I'm recorded, and we're having internet issues at the house right now as I'm recording, so I can't really, do this. Ed Norton wanted to work with Milos Forman and jumped at the offer to be in his movies.
Kimberly Williams Paisley. Could you imagine Brad Paisley's wife as Althea?
Oh.
Uh-huh.
For those of you who don't know, Brad Paisley is a very, very straight-laced, straight-up country music star.
He's not that straight-laced. I mean, he did Alcohol.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay. Anywho. Sorry, go ahead.
That's fine. Ed Norton
yes.
wanted the Supreme Court scene to be genuine, and so it's verbatim. What Alan Isaacman said in the courtroom was what Edward Norton said in the film.
Yes.
So that, that's because in a lot of these adaptations they don't necessarily go 100% of what the court case is doing. I mentioned the O.J. Simpson thing earlier on,
right?
And for example, John Travolta's character put the gloves on first, which was a no-no. You couldn't do that, but it was the dramatic effect. But this played it straight down the middle. So I guess it's saying that Larry Flynt's life was so awesome or so varied, for lack of a better term, that they didn't need to embellish much,
right? Because
it was it was such an interesting story to begin with. Courtney Love, I mean...
Oh, yeah, her free fall a little bit. That is not the right term to use. Her grieving process post-Kurt had been so public.
Yeah.
That, and the issues that she had after that were so public that the fees for the insurance, because during any production everyone is insured and bonded, you know what I mean, so the fees for Courtney were so high that Oliver Stone and Woody Harrelson and Michael Houseman and Milos Forman had to pay them on her behalf, and
they gladly did it. They said they'd do it again because it was such Milos Forman loved working with Courtney Love so much that the next time he did a biopic, his very next movie, which we will talk about later on in the season, Man on the Moon, the Andy Kaufman story, he hired her straight off the bat. He thought of nobody else to play the girlfriend, but we'll get to that at another time. Milos Forman actually believes that pornography is degrading to women, but He saw Larry Flynt as a defender of his rights first and a pervert second.
Yes.
And that's, I guess, the whole theme of this movie.
Right.
I mean, if you go into this expecting to see boobs, you'll see some, but it's not like 90 minutes of,
Right.
backs up for the laughs.
Right. But here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. And here it is here's what it boils down to with Hustler and all of that. It doesn't matter if, if you go and if you go and look at something online, as long as it's legal.
Yep.
Or you purchase a magazine, okay? Whether or not I morally or agree with you doing that is inconsequential. The fact of the matter is that the Constitution states that you can, and there have been hundreds of thousands, millions of men and women who have given their lives for this great country, for you to be able to enjoy your rights. And for anybody, and this might get me in a little bit of trouble, but there is no right more important than another. There's not. The first is not more important than the second. The second is not more important than the first.
Nope.
So, there, however, you can't cherry pick. It's sort of like Bible verses, as a Christian, you can't cherry pick which verses you want to listen to and which ones you don't.
True.
But it's the same thing with the Constitution. You can't decide what laws are we going to obey today, Johnny?
Yeah, that's perfectly true.
Right. Which feeds into the whole hypocrisy thing and religion. And at the end of the day, you can't enjoy your First Amendment right for freedom of religion, but stomp on someone else's First Amendment right of freedom of the press and freedom, of speech. So, sorry, I went off on a whole tangent.
No, that's good. That's good. I think that's going to be the sample.
Okay, but I mean, it is.
Millions of men and women died for your right to have a slap if you want one.
So crude. So help me.
I'm cutting that out.
Yes. Millions of men and women have proudly given their lives for you to see boobies and to wait. Here we go.
Go on.
Larry Flynt is the grandfather of 50 Shades.
Damn.
Because, right? First of all, 50 Shades is, many people would say it's indecent, right?
Yep.
However, the fact that it's even able to go to print is due to
Larry Flynt.
Right. Because what did 50 Shades start off as?
Fan fiction, which is
Twilight fan fiction. Right. So, Larry Flynt is the grandfather, or father, whatever, of Christian Grey. And there you go. 6 degrees of separation.
Well, everybody's got flaws, and I guess that's one of them.
Stop. Okay.
All right, going into some boring filmy stuff.
Yes,
this
please.
film was nominated for Best Director at the Oscars that year,
Right.
but not Best Picture. It was the only one that, and to me, I think those things go hand in hand.
Right.
I mean, you can't have you can say, hey, you did a great job directing your movie, but these other movies were better.
Nah.
I mean, that's like saying, hey, you were the best driver, but your car wasn't the best. I mean, there are some inconsistencies because it is a movie, and some, it didn't use the phrase, some things have been changed for dramatic effect.
Right.
It didn't cop out. But, for example, Alan Isaacman is a real person. In fact, is one of Larry Flynt's attorneys. But the character of Alan Isaacman in this movie, Ed Norton, was like a combination of like all of his lawyers thrown into one.
Right.
And, that's necessary for something like this, because a guy who's had that many lawyers and
yeah, you can't.
you just throw it into one and it makes it a lot easier. Jerry Falwell has said that he didn't find out about the Hustler parody from his students, but he only found out about it when he was asked about it by the media. So they had to add that for dramatic effect.
Right.
And the main judge, Thomas Alva Menkel, I mangled that. I apologize.
Mannequin.
Basically, is many judges that Larry Flynt
It's a
got in front
composite,
of,
right?
and basically the scriptwriters named him after their friends.
Right.
So, a couple more interesting things. This one I like. This is my favorite fact out of everything. Larry Flynt offered $1 million for information about the killer of
JFK.
JFK.
And they talk about it in the movie.
And they talk about it in the movie. Mm-hmm. Apparently, there's a conspiracy going on that Woody Harrelson's dad was involved in the assassination.
Okay, well, also, I mean,
But he was a bounty hunter.
No, he wasn't. No, he was literally an assassin.
Oh, he was an assassin.
Yes,
okay.
he murdered a federal judge, as well, later on. But yeah, there's actual speculation, and people can bring some sort of, there's more evidence that Woody Harrelson's father had something to do with the whole JFK, Jack Ruby, whatever. Killings. There's more evidence that leads to that than there is that the Earth is flat. So.
Oh my word. There's a scene where Larry refuses to swear on the Bible, citing his atheism. Mm-hmm. That's a real law, because the Quakers didn't want to swear on anything,
right?
So it was amended that they just, they affirm that they're going to tell the truth,
right?
So basically, putting your hand on the Bible and swearing is basically theatrical,
right?
For lack of a better term. The starter mansion that you see in the movies was actually Larry Flynt's original mansion that he owned in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned earlier, Judge Morrissey is played by Larry Flynt.
Right.
What are some of your favorite scenes in this movie? Let's have a little bit of fun. We've been very, very serious. So, some of your favorite scenes in this movie?
Let's see. Now,
what I've got written down are my favorite scenes. So,
right.
You have,
Well, I'm not even looking at what you've got written down, so
good.
We may double dip here. The beginning, when Larry's a child and they're running moonshine.
Yeah,
that's a good one. When he meets Althea. The scene where after he's shot, the one I talked about earlier, and she's telling the doctors, fix him. I don't care what he may be paralyzed. I don't care. Just do it.
Just make sure he's alive.
Yeah. And the end, where he's in the mansion and you can hear her laugh, when he's watching the home videos.
Yeah.
And they're, and the camera goes through, and that just, it gets my heart every time.
That scene will bring a tear to the last eye. It really will.
Right. It's well done.
It is well done. Especially the death scene too.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a very, very dramatic scene, and kudos to Woody Harrelson and Courtney Love for pulling that off. Mm-hmm. I love the freedom of speech rally. Mm-hmm. I love the speech she gives, especially the quote, "I think the real obscenity comes from raising our youth to believe that sex is bad and ugly and dirty, and yet it is heroic to go spill guts and blood in the most ghastly manner in the name of humanity."
Right.
That's something I've always believed in. I don't care what criticism comes my way. I mentioned Larry blowing up at the boardroom who will not look Althea in the eye.
Right.
When he returns to work as he's going through the wheelchair.
The pervert is back.
Yeah, everybody who listens, the pervert is back.
The poor secretary. Let them know the pervert is back. Yes.
And like you, I love that final scene, that final out of the hat. So, real quick, we just got a couple more boring things to go through, and then we're going to get to the nitty-gritty.
Winner, chicken dinner?
Winner, chicken dinner.
Okay.
This movie was, considering who's in it and who did it got a lot of recognition. Mm-hmm. Woody Harrelson and Marlos Forman were nominated at the Oscars for Best Actor and Best Director. Marlos Forman, Scott Alexandria, and Larry Kazawinski won the Golden Globe for Best Director and Best Screenplay, respectively.
Somebody please let this man know how to pronounce that.
Oh, I know. It sounds like I'm ignorant, but I
Zewski.
Zinski, okay.
Karaszewski.
That's what I said. Oh, well.
Uh-huh.
Michael Hausman, Oliver Stone, and Janet Yang were nominated for Best Producer in the Best Drama, and Woody Harrelson and Courtney Love were both nominated in their respective actor and actress fields.
For the Golden Globes,
yes. Golden Globes. Courtney Love won Best Breakout Performance at the MTV Movie Awards.
As she should.
Back when that meant something.
Yes.
Now it's just like, oh, look, who had Best Kiss?
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Go back to making music, MTV. And Woody Harrelson was nominated for Best Actor at the SAG Awards. So that, I mean, considering who wrote this movie, who starred in this movie, that's a lot of recognition.
Yeah.
And especially the topic matter, too. I mean, it just goes to show you never judge a book by its cover, and you never judge a smut peddler by his antics.
By his smut.
By his smut. As far as I'm concerned, this is a solid 8 out of 10 movie. No qualms about it.
I'd give it 8.5.
8.5? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's underrated, definitely.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Definitely underrated. The cast, as we mentioned, perfect cast.
Yes. I also think it should be required viewing. You know, right now, I don't care, regardless of what side of the aisle that you're on, you can't be ignorant to think that there's not a lot of those same discussions being had right now.
True.
If nothing else, for a point of reference, regardless of which side you're on, it's a good movie to watch. Simply because you can get more of a feel for how things were done then and when it changed.
And why it changed.
And why it changed. Now, you know, and some of it is dramatized, but the fact of the matter is that, love him or hate him, this man gave more than anyone who is not a military member or a holder of public office.
For a civilian, he did more.
For a civilian, he's done more for your
constitutional rights.
For your constitutional rights, for your First Amendment rights, than anybody in the last 100 years, hands down. Point blank.
Point blank.
And because of that, regardless of your personal feelings on the man, he should be celebrated. If you are, you know, happy with your First Amendment right to say what you want on Facebook, you can thank Larry Flynt. If you are happy with your cartoon drawing, you know, or fan art, fan fiction, if you well, I mean, there's religious freedoms in that as well.
Definitely.
I mean, if you are enjoying your religious freedom, and here's the thing with religious freedom, you can't be too sticky with it, because what is okay for one religion by law then becomes okay for all religions.
Yep,
because
definitely.
As a country, we don't have an official religion. Not making any comment one way or the other on that. I'm just saying point blank, that's what the law says. So for the religious freedoms that you enjoy or choose not to enjoy, as is your right, there are some credit to the fact that you can enjoy them the way that you like to enjoy them or not, that can be placed at the feet of Mr. Flynt. So regardless, love him or hate him personally, he is important.
Yep.
And this was a fabulous depiction of what he's gone through.
And not that accurate, too.
Yes.
Very accurate.
And again, Harrelson and Love did an amazing job.
Oh, yeah.
And Norton.
Oh, yeah. The three of them had, like, this weird chemistry that I've never seen before.
Oh, yeah. And then, you know...
I don't mean weird, like, as in it was awkward or anything like that, but I mean, they had this way of... It was a three-ring circus, you know? Only two of them liked each other at the one time, whereas the third one was probably the third wheel.
Right.
But depending on the situation, sometimes it was Harrelson doing the third wheel, sometimes it was Love doing the third wheel.
Right.
And it was really, really cool watching the dichotomy between them, because they really, those three made this movie.
Yeah, and you can also, for those of you who like to do the behind-the-scenes 6 degrees of separation mask, this is also around the stage that Norton and Courtney started dating.
Oh.
So,
Make
yeah.
that what you will. Hulk smash.
You're so bad. Okay.
Okay, well, on that note,
Yes.
we are going to call this a wrap. Sarah, it has been fantastic.
It has been a pleasure, dear.
And we are going to have you back sooner than you think, because we've got video game episode coming up next, where I'm going to be joined by Greg. But
Yay.
after that, we're going to be talking about one of your favorite people,
Yeah.
and one of Britain's most hated people as of right now,
Yeah.
Mr. Anthony Bourdain.
Ah.
So that'll be in about, let's see, 5 weeks or so. You have to wait 5 weeks to get your Sarah fix. But we'll be talking about Mr. Blair and a couple of other things too.
Yes.
So, in the meantime, now that we've gotten all this stuff out of the way, one of the great things about this episode is that it was very, very easy to research. You know, I mean, you just watch the movie and go to IMDb, Wikipedia, and Rotten Tomatoes, and you get all the information you need. How was research in the 90s?
Ooh.
Well, our resident sarcastic teenager has one or two things she'd like to tell us about research in the 90s.
I bet she does.
For me, college is not that far away. Miling my time away looking up campuses, dorms, is so easy. I mean, all I had to do was go on Google and bang! I could see anything in the world that I want. And the sites like Wikipedia, I could see information on anything I want. Like last week, I discovered that gravity was discovered by James D. Kirk. Ugh! Look, I get it. I have it easier than most these days. Back in the day, you had to go to the library to find out what you wanted to know. The library! Ugh! Wait, no. Libraries are cool. Anyway, I would have to pick up cards, find books, make notes, find editions, and it would take hours just to find a phone number or something. And what I was looking for, historical stuff. I might have to actually phone people. Like, no texts, no emails. Actually, phone people. I mean, why? To find out information about college or school, I would have to call the place and then wait for them to mail or bring me the brochure, then decide. I couldn't just go online and dismiss the school due to a lack of cute guys or hot chicks. But what was good is all that stuff I find out was correct. No flat of people getting in my way, and no blaming illnesses on medicine, just straight out facts. The point is that unless, like my own mama, you owned the encyclopedia series, you had to pay attention or leave your house. Now, I have all the information at the palm of my hand, and can tell you that Doctor Who built the pyramids.
Okay, guys, we've got one or two more things before we go ahead and shut up for this week. We didn't get much feedback with the social media question. I think basically with Larry Flynt, I mean, there's nobody really else you can think of who was somebody who you wouldn't expect to be an ally of a certain cause, but there he was. Like we mentioned, you know, it was probably more to do with he was looking after himself mainly, but, you know, basically, when he succeeded, we all succeeded. So, I want to thank everybody who's been on our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Because Maybe Pod, Google+, we're on there too. We do have a social media question because we are diving into the world of video games next week. We're not doing another review. Instead, we're going to look at the scene of what video games were in the 1990s, where they came from, where they were heading to, who was playing them, why they were playing them, and so on and so forth. It is a 3-part episode. We're going to do another 3-parter, and I will be joined by Greg Gregory. Greg is a big video game nerd like I am, and retro video game nerd like I am. So, you know, that's what we're going to go ahead and do. I'm also going to put a Let's Play up there of Super Mario Brothers. Actually, let me rephrase that. I'm going to put a Let's Play up there of Super Mario World. Now, I don't have a Super Nintendo. I'm going to be using an emulator, but, you know, you've seen me do it in the past. So with that in mind, let me ask you guys a question. Sega or Nintendo? Which was better? Let me know on the social media sites. Again, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, look at Because Maybe Pod, or if you want to use the hashtag BMPod on Twitter, I'll go ahead and answer there. So that's really it for this week, guys. I wish you a very, very special week ahead. I wish you a happy week ahead. And I hope everything that you want goes the way you want it to go. But until then, we will see you next week.
Libraries are cool.